national people's in different Asian countries. We are doing this Asia Regional People's Assembly, and we also have Latin American Africa People's Assembly done. And then we'll have a Global People's Assembly tomorrow, which I'll also share information. So the whole idea is to bring forth the community voices from the ground and take it to different levels, regional and global. We also thank Bread for the World and Rosa Luxembourg for supporting this event. Collects all different issues that we are facing, be it debt crisis, be it climate crisis, be it inequality, rising inequality, poverty, hunger, very scant social protection. All these issues will be discussed. We'll hear from experts, communities, civil societies, and finally we'll also have a declaration, Asia Regional People's Declaration, and committee, a group has prepared it. We'll share the draft with you. You can give your inputs. And finally, we'll do the finalize that declaration, which will eventually be owned by all of us. And we'll also share it with UN systems and different governments. So on behalf of the organizers, I welcome you. I'm Pradeep Besak. I'm the Asia coordinator of GCAP, Global Call to Action Against Poverty, which works in 66 countries on issues of inequality, poverty, debt, and health issues. Around SDGs, we very much go beyond SDGs. So please, this is a 2-hour session. We have great speakers to listen in. Please participate whenever. If you are not speaking, I would request you to mute your mic. If you have any questions, you can raise your hands. We'll also have question and answer sessions. So with this, I would invite my friend and colleague Ziaur Rahman from Awaz Foundation, Pakistan, to moderate the first session. Jia, over to you.
Thank
Arjun,
you.
You have something to say before Jia takes it over?
No, I just welcome to everyone, and thank you. And it's a great opportunity to share what's going on in Asia about democracy, human rights, and of course the achievement of SDG. So just welcome to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun Bhai. Arjun Bhattara is the co-chair of Global Call to Action Against Poverty. Thank you. Jia, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Pradeep and Arjun. As Pradeep mentioned, Arjun Bhattarai is our global co-chair of Global Call to Action Against Poverty. GCAP has always been a leading voice at the global level to connect the local community and local voices to the global and the global agendas to the local. So we actually call it a global kind of interaction with the global agendas and the local challenges and issues. This is, as mentioned by Pradeep already, that this is not the first ever regional assembly. This is 5th in the queue, and GCAP usually organizes such kind of regional and global assemblies prior to the global forums. So this year, 2025, has been known as the year of global conferences, starting from financing for development, and now we are actually culminating. After, in between, there were like so many other global conferences, but towards the end, we will be culminating with the World Social Summit in Doha very recently. So whatever we will be actually sharing today in our regional assembly, this will contribute to our global assembly tomorrow. The global assembly will be finalizing the communique. That communique will be contributing towards World Social Summit in Doha in the coming weeks. So I'm joined by my co-moderator, Tessa Luz, Aura from PRRM. She will be taking over after me. The first session will be of 55 minutes, and we have two very expert and apt global leaders, regional leaders who will be actually sharing with us the challenges of Asia region pertaining to the social protection, inclusion, overall fundamental freedoms, as well as the challenges related to the civil liberties. After them, we will have the community voices from Nepal. The Gen Z representative will be actually talking to us. Then we will have voices from Cambodia, India, and a representative from the Dalit Rights Organization. So this session of 55 minutes will have lots of interesting communications. I request for your attention, and towards the end of the session, we will have a question and answer session, and I will invite you for the questions if you may have. So let's start from Professor Babu Mathew. Professor Babu Mathew is a professor in the National Law School of India University. He's he is the visiting professor of law and public policy at the National Law School of India University, Bangalore. He is also presently chairperson of the committee to prepare Karnataka India labor policy. Prior to joining the academic forums, he remained part of the trade unions movement and in the social movements addressing issues of bonded labor, child labor, displacement, and the destruction of livelihoods among marginalized communities. His leadership extended globally as the vice president of the Trade Union International for 2 terms. Professor Mathew uniquely combined the teaching and practice of human rights, leading the evolution of rights-based policy frameworks and implementing a human rights agenda with special focus on economic, social, and cultural rights. The United Nations invited him to Geneva as an expert to speak before the United Nations Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights on public interest litigations. Please join me in welcoming Professor Babu Mathew, a visionary scholar, a social activist, and an inspiring leader whose work continues to shape the pursuit of justice and human dignity in South Asia and beyond. Professor Mathew, over to you.
Thank you, Zia, and thank you, Pradeep, for giving me this opportunity to be with all of you. I must particularly remember my colleague, Jagat Patnaik from India. He's the one who contacted me for this program, and I'm happy to reassociate with him. We've been working together for many years. It's a great opportunity to meet some old friends from Asian area, especially South Asia, and also to meet with many of you in my as an opportunity to make new friendships. Yes, the canvas that has been laid out for discussions during this process is indeed extraordinarily wide. And given the limitations of time, I will naturally try and make it as brief as I can. So let me get into the main issues straight away. I am presuming that, all of us are exposed, continuously exposed to what we are facing at the level of ordinary people's lives. So I don't want to get into too many of those details. However, some leading facts we must necessarily take note of in a process of this nature. So the first thing that catches my attention is about debt. And I think that is something all of us have been feeling again and again. I think what's interesting is from about 25 countries which were in debt during the last decade, it has now risen to about 50 countries. 50 countries in which the outflows of debt have doubled over the last 10 years. And so that is a very glaring feature that we must take note of because of its impact on almost everything else. This global public debt now surpasses 100 trillion. And that also is a doubling. When you look at it in the year 2010, it was about 50 trillion. Now that has doubled. And I think that is an indication of the manner in which the relationship between the North and the South is happening. We certainly need to dig into more details to find out what is the totality of wealth that flows from the South to the North. Because if that is sufficiently known to people, I don't think that you need any further great arguments in order to convince people as to what is it that is facing the world. So this debt to GDP ratio in Asian countries is also of a similar nature. And the leading experience we've had is in Sri Lanka, where, as a result of the economic crisis, there was all-round political turmoil also. It has been similar in Laos, in Pakistan. Hardly any country is left out of this kind of a situation. Even China and India have been in debt to a great extent when it comes to the relationship between GDP and debt. So in India, I must particularly draw attention to a phenomenon which I think is of significance for countries beyond India. And that is, in 1991, we had a foreign exchange crisis. And that foreign exchange crisis told us that we had enough foreign exchange only for a few weeks. And that created a panic. And in the context of that panic, since it was 1991, it converged with the collapse of the Soviet Union. And it is in that context that, the IMF came forward to bail out India. I think we must take note of this. Some of these institutions are waiting for countries to be in a debt trap. And when we are in a debt trap, then they are so generous and they come forward. You may ask for X million dollars in order to save yourself, but they are very often willing to give you double of what you ask. And that is what they call as the stabilization fund. So the stabilization fund was extended to India. Of course, what is not sufficiently known is whenever a stabilization fund is accepted, it comes along with conditionalities. And these conditionalities are of two types. One type is the structural adjustment program, and the other is the poverty reduction strategy paper. Different parts of Asia experience different varieties of these conditionalities. In India, we have had the structural adjustment program. In Sri Lanka, they have had the poverty reduction strategy paper. But I think in both places, it has resulted in similar consequences. So in India, what were these conditionalities? Through experience and through the knowledge derived from scholarship, we have found it convenient to refer to this as the Washington Consensus. What is this Washington Consensus? It's a consensus that is arrived at between the World Bank, the IMF, and, mind you, very importantly, the Treasury of the United States of America. And let me quickly take you to the high points of this Washington Consensus. I think the highest importance is given by the Washington Consensus to the process of privatization. And privatization has become a dogmatic solution to what they imagine is the crisis. Earlier, they used to find fault with nationalization and call it dogmatic. Now, privatization is the antidote, and it is even more dogmatic than the earlier variety. Along with it comes free trade. And free trade meaning opening up the market to the world of international capitalism. And that is accompanied with the free entry and the exit of capital, not only capital, of commodities and of technology. And as if this is not enough, then there is the financial sector reform. And the financial sector reform means trying to privatize the banks. Especially in India, we have a good situation of nationalized banks and nationalized insurance. And that is the financial sector substantially. So there is an attempt to bring about reform, and that reform essentially means the privatization. Along with that, augmented Washington consensus has many other items out of which I want to mention two. One is dealing with intellectual property rights. And I think we all understand the consequences of intellectual property rights in different fields of human activity, especially when it comes to the cost of drugs. I think that impact is being felt by ordinary people more and more in the present times. The other one is flexible labor. Flexible labor is the ideological assault on the rights of the workers. In the context of India, I must say that we have a constitutional framework which protects workers' rights. And when that is read along with the ILO's protection, then that is one paradigm. And in order to replace that paradigm, what has been brought into force is what is called as flexible specialization. And so it is, as a result of this situation that we have been faced with unprecedented problems. And I think among the unprecedented problems, two stand out, as very glaring examples. One is the issue of inequality. Inequality has also been growing in an unprecedented manner. One may dare say that greater the so-called GDP growth, higher is the rate of inequality and unemployment. And so this again is to be seen in different parts of the world. And it appears in the form of an income and wealth gap. The drivers of this inequality must be recognized simultaneously. It's globalization, which is the biggest driver of inequality. And by globalization, I essentially mean what I was talking to you as Washington consensus. In addition to that, there is spatial inequality. And spatial inequality means there are some centers of urban growth where growth appears to be visible. But when it comes to the agrarian inland, there, none of this growth even manifests itself. And the third element is policy choices. National economic policies have been shown to influence inequality in an unprecedented manner. So this threatens the sustainability of Asia's economic growth. And it is known that over 260 million people in Asia and Pacific will be driven into poverty in the next decade without any robust social protection. Of course, that is accompanied with gender inequality, and that we must particularly take note of, because the gender pay gap is one facet of it. In addition to that, we must note that South Asian women, on an average, they earn 30 to 40% less than the men. And they are given limited economic opportunities. There's discriminatory social norms which restrict women's economic empowerment in many parts of Asia. In South Asia, we know that the women's participation, very low labor force participation rates, and whatever they get is very often in low-skilled jobs, in informal jobs, and in low-paid jobs. I think it is in this context that I must say, in the Indian context, we also find that it's the Muslim minorities which are the worst off in this context. So that multifarious attempts, impact must be taken note of. Of course, there is, in addition to that, underrepresentation when it comes to leadership, and unpaid, situation when it comes to care work. And women bear a disproportionate share of unpaid domestic work. So that's on the inequality side. Similarly, on the unemployment side, almost everywhere there are different levels of unemployment. Even in China, there is 5.2% unemployment. India is also 5.2%. In Pakistan, it is 5.5%. In Nepal, it is 10.7%. In Lebanon, it is 11.5%. And I think you were mentioning that friends from Palestine will also be participating. In Palestine, thanks to settler colonialism, the unemployment rate has risen to 28.6%. So it is in this context that we must also take note of marginalization. Marginalization also in Asia, who are the ones who are marginalized? It's the indigenous peoples and tribal groups that are marginalized to the maximum. It is said that more than 260 million indigenous people are marginalized in Asia. And of course, along with that, there is the marginalization of ethnic and religious minorities. There's the marginalization of migrant workers and refugees. In India and some parts like Nepal, etc., there is the Dalits, scheduled castes, who are also marginalized. People of African descent are marginalized. Women and girls are marginalized. And people with disabilities, and of course, the LGBTQ individuals are also marginalized. And that has tremendous amount of aggravating the socio-economic inequality situation. There is also increasing destitution and its manifestation. This increasing destitution has led to natural unrest among people. And in response to unrest, what we find is the erosion of civil liberties. I'm glad that your forum is already taking note of that also. So this erosion is contributed by authoritarian and military regimes and targeting political opponents and civil society. There's erosion of press freedom. There's a rise of nationalism and ethnic tensions, weaponization of laws, and social media manipulation and economic hardships and corruption. So as a result of it, we find there is a continuous erosion of civil society in unprecedented manner, and that is also gathering momentum. So it is in this kind of an all-round crisis that I think we must take note of the fact that not everything is hopeless. There are fortunately powerful voices of dissent. And I'm keen to invite your attention to two intellectuals who have contributed to this dissent in a very substantial manner. One is Amartya Sen, the Nobel laureate Amartya Sen from India. He has told us enough about development must result in freedom of the individuals. And if you want to develop that freedom, you must adopt the capabilities approach. And for the capabilities approach, when it boils down to essential things, it means you need better education, you need better health, better nutrition, better housing, better employment. And so that critique from Professor Amartya Sen has had its impact, a substantial impact, so much so even the World Bank President Wolfenson, who held the post between 1995 and 2005, he had to revisit the World Bank's programs and introduced what is known as the Comprehensive Development Framework in 1999. That is a substantial change, ideologically speaking, but only at the level of articulation and conceptualization. It was a good step in that sense. In place of the economic alternative, they decided to talk about the social alternative. If only that was given more importance in terms of practice, things would have been perhaps a little better than what it is now. Similarly, the other person that we must take note of, and I think that is particularly important for Asia, and that is Joseph Stiglitz. Stiglitz is the one who points out at the world level in a very convincing manner that when you're thinking of the World Bank's formula and the IMF's formula, please remember that one size does not fit all. And for this, the greatest illustration he has given continuously, substantiated it through the experience of the Southeast Asian tigers. And there I think we must particularly take note of the experience of South Korea, because they are the ones who have de facto rejected the Washington consensus. You have a situation where, on the one hand, while allowing market to play its role, they have also invoked very strongly the intervention of the state. And so this is something which Asia must ponder upon. I would request all friends in all parts of Asia to exchange notes in this regard. It's a process which was started by Japan. And of course, China has taken it on a slightly different route, but to equally great results. Let me, before finishing my intervention, draw attention to something which we learned from, the conflict or the debate between the Chicago School of Economists and the Freiburg School of Economists. So in that process, something has arisen, which is a new conceptual category worth giving attention to, and that is called as ordoliberalism. Ordoliberalism is a substitute. It's a different approach from neoliberalism. Ordoliberalism also does not disrespect the market, but it says that there must be strong state intervention in order to correct the mistakes of neoliberalism. Even Adam Smith is on record, as we know, to say that if you leave the market entirely to itself, then it leads to many imperfections. There is no such a thing as a perfect market. And one of the leading imperfections is the rise of monopoly capitalism. And in that context, the ordoliberalists were, attracted to an analysis of what was the situation in Germany. And they point out the role of monopoly capital in the rise to fascism. And it is in the search for an alternative that they were articulating ordoliberalism. So there are lessons for us to learn from different parts of the globe. And I think we should examine this while we continue to fight injustice at the grassroots level. I think that combination of struggle from below and renewed conceptualization and the two coming together is a dialectical process that must be encouraged in order to attract positive results. I thank you very much for your very patient listening.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor Babu Mathew. I did not want to stop you while you were speaking. What a wonderful contribution. What a wonderful sharing, starting from the debt injustice, Washington consensus, to the grassroots level challenges that might have come out of the mouths of academic come trade unionist. And we really, really appreciate your contribution for today. I cannot sum up whatever you have shared. What a wonderful sharing. I must appreciate that. And I think that the audience today will have the similar overwhelming feelings about what you have contributed to our regional assembly. Since we are already, having a time challenge, so I would request my next keynote speaker, a very well respected person from Gaza, from Palestine. We all know what has happened in Gaza and Palestine in the recent past and what is going on over there. A voice from Gaza would be really, really a wonderful opportunity for all of us, that we will be listening from a colleague who is right now sitting in Gaza. I would like to invite Mr. Amjad Shawa, the Deputy Commissioner General of the Independent Commission for Human Rights. Amjad Shawa is a Palestinian humanitarian and human rights advocate. He is recognized for his involvement in civil society and sustainable development efforts in Palestine. Shawa currently serves as the Deputy Commissioner General of Independent Commission for the Human Rights in the Ombudsman Office of Palestine and as the General Director of the Palestine Non-Governmental Organization, PNGO, in Gaza. It's like Wada Natoro in India and Pakistan Development Alliance in Pakistan. Despite all the challenges of the recent war in Gaza, Amjad remained in Gaza and experienced the repeated forcible displacements. Let's hear from Amjad Shawa, and let's give him a big hand because he is actually surviving, and we are really, really happy to have him in our regional assembly today. Over to you, Mr. Amjad Shawa.
The South Asia Regional People's Assembly.
Thank you. Really appreciate it to give me this opportunity to talk to you directly from Gaza. From Gaza, that for more than 2 years, it's such genocide, such unprecedented attack, not only on us as Palestinians, but on the humanity itself.
Mr. Shawa, if you can bring the mic little closer.
Yeah. I hope that you could hear me now. It's better. Thank you.
Much better, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And you make my mission to talk to you after Professor Babu is difficult, really. He get me back to the, to this notion of the civil society and the talks that we used to have before the war. As you know, this is, and I'm sure that you are following the details of the Palestinian suffering and the suffocation due to this war. For 2 years, which we calculated them, not by days, by moments, by seconds. Israel not only destroyed the homes and the infrastructure, almost destroyed the history. Gaza, 5,000 years of history, which not belong to the Palestinians, it's belong to the humanity. Israel not only destroyed the old history, also trying to make Gaza unlivable place for ages. Israel tried to not only to kill, to destroy, also to deport the Palestinians from Gaza. And you heard about this plan to make Gaza an American resort for Trump. Gazans insisted to stay, whatever the price it is. Israel, from day one of this war, denied entry of basic food, water, electricity, medicine, and all supplies were denied entry to be entered. And after what we witnessed from pressure, they entered small quantities, calculated by calories. More than 70,000 people who were registered, killed. And still, we have thousands of people under the rubble and missing. Until now, we cannot reach these bodies under the rubble. 5,000 children lost their limbs. We, as Palestinian civil society organization, we were the frontliners, the main responders. We were with the people themselves. Personally, I was displaced for so many times. For 15 months, I was displaced. I was working from different, as my colleagues, from the roads, from wherever, in order to reach the people who need for help. I know that you are happy to have ceasefire, which is still fragile. And 2 weeks after the ceasefire, there's tens of people who were killed. Still, Israel restricts the entry of the basic needs to the Gaza. 2 months ago, through the IPC, Gaza was announced as famine zone. Gaza, which used to export food, vegetables, is suffering from famine. Israel destroyed 98% of the agricultural land, which was resource for food for us and for others. Israel pushed the Palestinians to be completely dependent on humanitarian aid. 90% of the population became totally dependent on humanitarian aid. 1.5 million lost their homes. Israel till now denied the entry of the basic shelter material as tents, latrines, mattresses, blankets, while we are waiting for winter and such cold weather. Children who are malnutrition, suffering from all these difficult aspects of this catastrophe. 2 years of denial of being in school, traumatized. 55,000 children who became orphans. They lost one of their parents or both. These children, you could see them running after the water truck to get some water, or in the community kitchen. And you could see them, they are going to the temporary learning spaces that we created as NGOs, very committed. This is what we give us as humanitarians the hope. These are children. Israel, with unprecedented violation, banned one of the biggest UN agencies, UNRWA, which is working in Palestine for about 80 years. It's denied of entry its supplies to the Gaza. It was attacked by the Israeli jet fighters, destroying its schools, clinics, its personnel, staff. About 350 personnel of the UNRWA were killed as aid workers. We as national NGOs, we lost 240 of our colleagues, aid workers, lost about 85% of our premises. We worked from the tent. Personally, I was working from the street. I have a chair and I was working from there. And I could meet with the colleagues from there. One of the things that I have to tell and to thank you all, you are the voice of the people, which is give us the power and hope. Your voices, your support, which reached our minds and hearts. And this is not the end. It's a new beginning of open new pages for new kind of suffering. It's not a humanitarian issue. It's a political issue. Israel, through this genocide, want to delete the Palestine issue. We have to struggle to get this issue back as a human rights issue. Colleagues and friends, Israel tried to replace the humanitarian organization with American support by creating new structures as what's so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, an organization with American funds, which was killing traps for the Palestinians, for the aid seekers. Thousands were killed, insulted when they reached this distribution centers. I was saying, it happened here in Palestine, but it could happen in in other countries, in other contexts. that we as humanitarian agencies to be replaced by such organizations created by the Americans and the Israelis, by banning our work. Tens of INGOs, international NGOs, now in very difficult conditions, deny entry of their materials and supplies, on the same time, their personnel. They were imposed by a new registration system by the Israelis to silence their voice and to make their personnel vetted according to the Israeli security criteria. But since we have these voices from the people all over the world, we will keep our hope. We will not give up. That change will happen. Justice will be applied. Israel wants to change these international structures by these international laws, by the jungle law, by its law. We insist there is no immunity for these criminals who killed the children. 20,000 children were killed. If we keep silent towards these genocide, it could happen in other places. We have to keep our voices towards what happened in Gaza. It's moving. And Israel, as Netanyahu said, we attacked 7 countries. There is no immunity. Israel has to let in aid to Gaza, not to restrict the aid. The issue for us, how we can get these Israeli criminals to the International Court of Justice, to get them accountable, to get justice for these families. Also, to start very early recovery. It's a very complicated, difficult mission, but through your support, we can help. We can help the civil society in Palestine in order to be recovered also. I have thousands of colleagues who are working day by night in order to respond with very limited supplies. With the colleagues of the UN, of the INGOs, we are part of this humanitarian structure, respecting these principles, humanitarian principles, to have dignified, safe response, reaching aid to the people, to the needy people. We'll continue working with you. We'll continue receiving your voices. Although that Israel still imposing this closure, denial of medical evacuation of 18,000 patients and injured to get medical treatment after the destruction of the health facilities, killing about 1,500 medical teams. But we will continue work with very limited things to keep this hope, to get back the schools and children to university. NGOs, again, approved that they are and they have the capacity to get people more resilient, more steadfast. So your voices, your efforts, it's needed more and more than before to keep this momentum, to have a permanent ceasefire, to get aid and hope to the people of Gaza and Palestine, and to get the rights of the Palestinian of self-determination to end the occupation, and to get justice for these victims. All the best from Gaza, which keep hope and keep dreaming of a new day, and we can all together make this change. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you very much indeed, Amjad Shawa. We really express our solidarity with the people of Gaza and with you and with all the workers of aid and political leaders who are actually trying to bring peace in that region. You have shared not only the suffering of the people in Gaza, but also shared the resilience of the people. And we really appreciate the resilience of the people in Gaza, and we express our solidarity. Thank you very much for joining us in this regional assembly and in this testing time. You have very rightly said that this is more than a political issue, and I think this assembly should call for the national governments, our respective national governments, to push the Israelis and the others perpetrators to leave Gaza as early as possible, and there should be a political solution to this particular matter. In order to express our solidarity, I would request all of the participants in the call to send our hearts to Amjad Shawa, to share the same feeling with the people in Gaza. Just make it like read with our hearts, and keep at least 1 minute silence to express our solidarity. Thank you very much indeed, colleagues, for your solidarity with the Palestinian people, with the people of Gaza. We have time for the questions from Professor Babu Mathew and from Mr. Amjad Shawa. Given the time challenge, I will restrict the question and answer session to 5 minutes only, which is quite a big challenge, I understand. And as being the moderator, I will use my right to ask the first question to Professor Babu Mathew. While he was talking about the Washington consensus, and he was saying that the only one country in the world, South Korea, was resisting against the Washington consensus. We also have one Professor Anselmo Lee in our audience from South Korea. So maybe I think I will expect your answer, and maybe in the later times, if Anselmo would also like to reflect on this. So, Professor Mathew, I will give it to you, and maybe if the others have any pressing question, please raise your hand. Professor Mathew. Professor Mathew, are you with us? I'm not seeing you.
I think he has some other engagement, so he has left the meeting.
Okay. So
yeah,
let me just open the forum, and if any one of you have any question, quickly. Can you just, Pragati, can you just make, I'm not seeing any hand right now.
One is there. answer there. Ashok Srimali and Liaquat Masih.
Okay. So, Liaquat, can you go ahead?
Thank you very much, yes, sir. I don't have any question, but I just want to have a comment about the people of Gaza and the friend from there. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but there should be paradigm shifting. There should be paradigm shifting in the struggle against the oppression by Israel or someone else, because it is internal and external both, as I understand, while sitting thousands of miles away from Gaza. I think the infiltration or whatever is the fighting forces, whether it is Israel or someone else, they are just adding miseries to the Palestinian people. So, on a people's perspective, from people's side, there should be retaliation, a struggle, a resistance against those internal forces as well, that they attract or they provoke the attacks from Israel or any other. This is my perspective.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Liaquat. Quickly to Mr. Ashok Shrimel.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions. One, what about the social justice in the context of economic equality? While we are talking, while Professor Mathew mentioned about the marginalized community. So again, most of the resources of marginalized community, either it's owned by state. So what's the role of state, and how can how can we protect their inherent rights in the context of Gaza also, and in the context of Asian region also? So how can, as a civil society organization, we can pressurize? That is my question.
Thank you, Ashokji. You have actually raised a very pertinent question in the situation where the civic spaces are shrinking and the states are regulating the civil society. Is really, really a challenging time for the civil society to actually facilitate the community voices. Let me just request Amina. Amina, you had your raised hand. And finally, I will request Saeed later on, and then I'll stop. Amina.
Thank you, Jia. So it's not a direct question, but the thing is that when we are seeing the genocide, and we can't even tell that we are not aware about it. So it's my experience that when we are supporting SDGs with UNESCAP or UN agencies, always we just take it as a off issue, like we are not so strong to share or to ask the question to UN even about their role. And you know the shrinking civic space even within the UN also. So actually, what will be our position from the People's Forum because of shrinking space in UN? While we are supporting, we are working together through APRCM or other platform. This is one point. Another point is about recent, we are experiencing the different type of revolution in a sense, like the Gen Z, they are doing great things. They are challenging us. So how could we even open this space for them, creating the conducive environment, lobbying or advocating from ourselves, declaring a collective effort or the solidarity with the Gen Z that they are claiming. Yeah.
Thank you, Amina. We have one speaker lined up after this question and answer session. We will be inviting him to talk about what has happened in Nepal and how Gen Z was actually taking up the challenges over there. So my last request is to Saeed Baloch. Saeed, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'm just saying my Palestinian brother we are with always up with our Palestinian brothers, sisters, because always, whenever the any attack came from Israel or other side, we from people of civil society from left side always stand with Palestinian. Second, I am asking about the Professor Babu Mathew. Because I'm saying about something Pakistan perspective. You know, before the we as a liberalism and after new liberalism, both time Pakistani economy controlled by the World Bank, IMF, and now even the our annual budget set and designed by the IMF. So it's control the all resources where they control by the central government. Third one I think is very important because when we talk about the livelihood, community resources, provincial resources, you know there's three different mine and mineral act in Balochistan, in Sindh, in Gilgit-Baltistan. So they try to control the minerals resources by the federal government, which actually by the law, by law legal, they belong to the provincial. So the People's Assembly and People's Civil Society around the Asia, so we should gather our voices, our strength to stand with people's support, and we must say the resources belong to the
Thank
community.
you. Thank you, Said, for expressing the solidarity with the people in Gaza and also expressing your solidarity with the grassroots communities. Uh, I think we don't have Professor Babu Mathew with us to respond to some of our comments, but I hope that we will be actually reaching out to him with these comments, and we'll be also sharing with you the report of this conversation, so you will have some more thoughts on our conversation later on. Let me now move ahead and request some of the community voices joining us today from Nepal, Cambodia, and India. You all know that the Gen Z uprising happened in Nepal couple of months back. We have with us Mr. Ganga Bahadur Gautam. He will be sharing with us the story of Gen Z from Nepal. Ganga Bahadur Gautam, over to you. And you have only 5 minutes. Please keep the timing.
Namaste. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I will introduce myself first. I am Ganga Bahadur Gautam from Nepal. I involved in one organization that is called Youth Initiatives, that is youth lead organizations also. And also I am the part of the NGO Federation of Nepal, Kathmandu branch. And I involved in the Gen Z movement. It was a very I'd expect 72 people would die in the moment, first of all, because when they sacrifice their life, that's why, and that after that the government we win these situations. The moment that stock in Nepal 2025 reflect the global awareness among the Gen Z. We are the digital generations, having grew up seeing the problem like financial crisis, climate change, economical injustice, and the political instability on our smartphone. This experience made us practice focusing on the financial and sustainability and demanding the realness for those in the power. Standard the old political structure we organize like Discord, server the viral trend. Our digital skill help us the quick against the government attempt to silence us. Beginning on 25 September 4, when the government banned the 26 major social media brand platform, to us, this wasn't just a rule. It was attended by the old guide to keep their power by the shooting down our freedom of speech. This band deeper our anger over a year of corruption. Especially, we saw the worldly politician, the Nepo kids, filtered the research online, while many of the friends leaving country for job, high unemployment, and the corruption made this band attract the fit. Hello, I'm here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Continue,
Very
okay.
please,
much.
please.
This movement was fully digital and the leaderless and peer-to-peer. We used Discord to coordinate our protest and avoid the government surveillance. When the ban was in force, we used the VPN and share our different flyer on the social media. And that time, many of the CSOs voices are the same, and the major cause of our protest is for corruption, for anti-corruption and the social media ban. On the first day protest, many of peoples they wear, many of young peoples and the students, they wear the uniform, school uniform, symbolize our we are the Gen Z and we are the youth. That's why. And from this protest, government response for us the oil violence, and we lost the 19 young peoples in first day. And in that time, and in the whole day, during 2 days after, 72 peoples was killed, and most of 34 peoples are they took the government took us I think say 34 peoples are also they took head shot and the body shot, and 2200 peoples are the injury in this actions. After the government resigned, and the KP Sharma Oli was the quickly resigned their post, and as a youth, as a Gen Z peoples are create the own government also, and the Susila Karki is the prime minister of the Nepal in that time. And during this time, Nepal civil society faced the many threat right now also, and we need your support and the solidarity also. And the many young civil society helps for they rise for the cause, they work on the different kind of injustice, they raise the voice, and that's why the many as a opportunist peoples and the different political parties also targeted the civil society right now, and they are also they are called different the NGOs and the different out of countries peoples investing on the anti accountability for this cause right now. And in the main cause is we are not we are most demanding right now also clear is the full accountability for the corruption. Youth focuses economy and the co-government full where young peoples including in the decision making power. And we just here is the election is will election is happening, but we are right now also we are in the threat between different political parties are some of the young people, the Gen Z people involved in the protest, but involved in the protest, but the different political parties are called it as why you and then the young people's involved in this, and they are threatening as a Gen Z also. So that we want for your different here is the different civil societies peoples and the activists. We want your solidarity, we want your support, and we always work for the democracy. We always stand for the injustice. So that thank you for the NGO Federation ZICA for this kind of local voices to the global action, and looking forward to working with us for the different kind of initiative. Youth are not leader of tomorrow, but also the partner of today. So we can collaboratively doing so many things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gangat. You have, you, not only you, but the Gen Zs has inspired many in the world and in particularly in South Asia. And we express our solidarity with your movement for social justice, economic justice, youth engagement, and youth empowerment. We have youth leadership in many of our countries. Most of our populations are comprised of young people. More than 65% young people are in Pakistan, which are also actually leading the power nowadays in many parts of the country. So thank you very much for sharing your experience. Now let's move towards another experience from the indigenous community. We have with us today Miss Rohini Chari from India. She will be sharing with us her experience of indigenous communities and the challenges that they have been facing and how they have been actually coping up with those challenges. So over to you, Rohini.
थैंक यू। मैं थोड़ा सा कम्युनिटी के बारे में बता दूं। डीएनटीज कम्युनिटी में बेड़िया कम्युनिटी और एंड्रयूज प्लीज ट्रांसलेट टू इंग्लिश।
जी मैं आपके कहने के बाद आई विल ट्रांसलेट फॉर एवरीवन, तो मैं नोट्स ले रहा हूँ।
ओके
थैंक यू।
ओके थैंक यू। मैं थोड़ा सा कम्युनिटी के बारे में बता दूं। बेड़िया कम्युनिटी को देखा जाए तो सेक्स वर्कर के लिए उनकी पहचान है कि वो काम करती हैं लड़कियां। और मैं मुरैना मध्य प्रदेश से हूँ, इंडिया में। और यहाँ पे अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं, अभी तो लॉकडाउन के बाद की जो स्थितियां बनी हैं उससे और भी ज्यादा भयानक स्थिति, और अभी के जो बदलाव हम देख रहे हैं, चाहे वो राजनीतिक क्षेत्र में है या फिर हम और चीजों में देख रहे हैं, वो बहुत ज्यादा दयनीय स्थिति होती जा रही है, जिसके कारण कम्युनिटी के बहुत सारे गांव प्रॉपर पलायन करके बाहर जा चुके हैं। जो लड़कियां काम करने के लिए बाहर जाती हैं मेट्रो सिटीज में, उनकी वहां पर भी अगर हम चैलेंज और चुनौतियों की बात करें तो वहां पे सबसे ज्यादा उनको रेंट के लिए, खाने के लिए, उनके रहने के लिए वो बहुत ज्यादा उनको पे करना पड़ता है। तो कोई कम्युनिटी के पास अगर हम बात करें, स्थिति अपने जीवन यापन के लिए बहुत ही ज्यादा खराब है। दूसरा, अगर हम हेल्थ को लेकर बात करते हैं तो अभी मैं जो कंटिन्यू देख रही हूँ उसमें, अगर चाहे वो पीएससी है, सीएससी है, सिविल हॉस्पिटल है, डिस्ट्रिक्ट हॉस्पिटल है, तो वहाँ फैसिलिटी ना के बराबर है गाँव। और अगर इमरजेंसी में भी आपको अगर जाना है तो आपको अपना प्राइवेट कार करना, हायर करना होगा। और बहुत सारी चीजों को लेकर वहां पे रेफरल, अगर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन की बात करें समुदाय को लेकर, तो चाहे वो स्कूल हो चाहे हॉस्पिटल हो, कम्युनिटी के साथ उस तरीके का डिस्क्रिमिनेशन बराबर है। और वो तुरंत उनको रेफर करते हैं। अगर पीएससी में है तो सीएससी रेफर करेंगे, सीएससी से सिविल में करेंगे, लेकिन उस पेशेंट को उस टाइम पे जिस रिलीफ की और जिस राहत की जरूरत है वो उसको अवेलेबल नहीं हो पाती है। कई बार हॉस्पिटल के लिए गांव से बारिश के टाइम में अगर संसाधन नहीं चल पा रहे हैं तो चारपाई पे बिठाकर पेशेंट को लेकर हम लोग हॉस्पिटल लेकर आ रहे हैं, समुदाय के लोग। और उसमें भी वो उससे ये कह देते हैं कि आपको रेफर किया जाता है, डिस्ट्रिक्ट हॉस्पिटल जाइए, ग्वालियर जाइए, आगरा जाइए। इस तरीके का जो माहौल है वो कहीं ना कहीं सोशल सिक्योरिटी के मामले में हम देखते हैं कि ये बहुत ज्यादा स्थितियां भयानक तौर पे नजर आने लगी हैं। आयुष्मान कार्ड को लेकर अगर हॉस्पिटल में बात करते हैं, कम्युनिटी के पास वो दस्तावेज नहीं है जिससे वो उसका लाभ ले सकें। चाहे वो राशन कार्ड है तो यहाँ पे कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट होना बहुत जरूरी है। अगर जो सिंगल वुमेन है, सिंगल वुमेन का कार्ड आज तक नहीं बना है, और सिंगल वुमेन के बच्चे को आज तक कोई स्कॉलर नहीं मिला है। स्कूल की स्थितियों की बात करें तो हमने एसएमसी में 30 गांव के अंदर, जहां बेड़िया कम्युनिटी के लोग रहते हैं, वहां पे 30 गांव में से आज तक कोई भी एसएमसी के बारे में नहीं जानता है। एक जगह जो हम लोगों ने कोशिश करी थी कि वहां जाएं पेरेंट्स और उनसे बात करें, स्कूल की फैसिलिटी को लेकर बात करें, स्टाफ को लेकर बात करें, या खाने को लेकर, मिड डे मील को लेकर बात करें, लेकिन वहां पर वो उनको लेने के मतलब पेरेंट्स को लेने के लिए एग्री नहीं है, क्योंकि अदर लोग जो उस कमेटी के मेंबर हैं, उस कमेटी में जो जुड़े हुए लोग हैं, वो नहीं चाहते हैं कि कम्युनिटी के लोग उसमें पार्टिसिपेट करें। तो ये जो स्थितियां हैं उनको लेकर बहुत ज्यादा स्थितियां, मतलब गरीबी की बात करें, भुखमरी की बात करें, पलायन की बात करें, एजुकेशन की बात करें, हेल्थ को लेकर बात करें, तो यहाँ जितना मतलब हम देख रहे हैं कि विकास की ओर बढ़ने की बजाय हम और बैक में जा रहे हैं। पहले लोग उन चीजों को बहुत आसानी से एक दूसरे से सामंजस्य बनाकर ले भी लेते थे, लेकिन आज की डेट में जैसे राशन के लिए अगर किसी के पास है पैसा और वो नहीं चाहता है कि वो राशन ले, लेकिन पोर्टल के आधार पे वो उसी को मिलेगा। तो जो सोशल सिक्योरिटी है वो ना के बराबर है। अगर वृद्धा पेंशन, विधवा पेंशन, विकलांग पेंशन की बात करें तो 1 या 2% लोगों के पास ही है, वो भी बहुत ज्यादा पैसा देने के बाद उनको कागज बना। क्योंकि अगर डॉक्टर से बात करते हैं कि 50% अगर ये विकलांग है तो वो उसको वो सर्टिफाइड करेगा और उसके ऊपर उसको कुछ बेनिफिट मिलेगा। लेकिन यहाँ पे डॉक्टर भी वो एग्री नहीं होते हैं और उनका बहुत ज्यादा चार्जेस लगता है इन चीजों को लेने के लिए। तो जो स्कूल, हेल्थ, सबसे ज्यादा कम्युनिटी इससे प्रभावित है और इसी के कारण 3 से 4 गांव पूरी तरह से पलायन हो चुके हैं अभी तक, और ये पलायन कंटिन्यू चालू है। जो लोग पलायन करके बड़ी सिटीज में, लड़के जो सबसे ज्यादा यूथ है, और यूथ जब बाहर जा रहा है तो वहां पे स्विगी, जोमेटो, अमेजोन और अलग अलग वो जो उनके वर्कर्स के या ओला उबर में काम कर रहे हैं या कहीं, तो उनके लिए भी अगर हम बात करें तो उनके हेल्थ के लिए कोई सिक्योरिटी नहीं है। अगर किसी का एक्सीडेंट हो जाए तो वो नहीं दे दे रहे हैं उनको वो सुविधाएं, या उनके पास हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस नहीं है, या डेथ इंश्योरेंस उनका अगर बोले अगर किसी की डेथ हो जाए तो उनकी कोई सोशल सिक्योरिटी नहीं है। तो कम्युनिटी को लेकर जो एक ये बेड़िया कम्युनिटी का ही नहीं, क्योंकि बेड़िया कम्युनिटी में ओवरऑल मैं अभी तक काम कर रही हूँ इसलिए बहुत सारी चीजों को क्लियर कर सकती हूँ, लेकिन ये ओवरऑल सारी डीएनटीज कम्युनिटी के साथ इस तरह का माहौल है। एक डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के कारण, दूसरा कागज ना होने के कारण, और कागज के ना होने का 1950 का रिकॉर्ड जो हम अगर अगर बात करते हैं तो यहाँ पे आर आई पटवारी इस पे साइन करते हैं कि अगर ये 1950 के यहाँ रहवासी हैं तो इनको मिलेगा, नहीं तो इनको ये कागज नहीं मिलेगा। तो बहुत सारी चीजों को गवर्नमेंट किस तरीके से देख रही है, मतलब एक तरफ लॉ कहता है कि वो उनको उनकी प्रायोरिटी है और उनको मिलना ही चाहिए ये, लेकिन उसको पाने के लिए कितना उनको जद्दोजहद और लड़ाई करना पड़ रहा है, जिसके लिए भी गवर्नमेंट के अधिकारी ही जिम्मेदार हैं। तो कम्युनिटीज के साथ जिस तरीके का व्यवहार है वहां पे, जितना वो अवेयर नहीं है, वो एजुकेटेड नहीं है, अगर उनके बच्चे बाहर जाना चाहते हैं तो स्कूल के लिए उनके पास स्कॉलर नहीं है, उनको सपोर्ट करने के लिए कोई और सिस्टम नहीं है। तो ये बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो कम्युनिटी को लिए बहुत ज्यादा दिक्कत है।
Thank you very much. I did not want to stop you, Rohini, but in the interest of the time and also in the interest of my next panel, actually, who are actually waiting, so I had to stop you here. May I request Adrienne to just explain a little bit what Rohini has shared with us in local language? Adrienne?
Yes. Yes, thank you. I'll just quickly explain. Rohini ji works in the state of Madhya Pradesh in India, in the district of Morena. She works primarily with the Bedia community, which is a nomadic community. Traditionally, they have worked, women of that community have been discriminated against working as sex workers. So she was just giving an overview of the social protection status of this community. So, because of socioeconomic turmoil faced in in the villages that they live at, where schools and hospitals have rampant discrimination, even emergencies like ambulances or stretchers have to be arranged by the community itself. There is no actual hospital administration that is to help these communities. Uh, that's why, and social security is also not accessible to this community. The lack of basic ID documents, which they have to pay bribes for, then they have to get that. These communities are discriminated and not included in the school management committees in which their children happen to go. Health, immigration, education have all, she says, has seen a backslide when it comes to this nomadic community. Even a thing like widow pension, which is a basic social security need that the government of India grants to all widows with different rates state-wise, only 1 or 2% of this community actually has access to the widow pension. Even that they have gotten after paying a lot of bribes to local government officials. So, and even the youth, when they leave, the male youth, when they leave for major cities through migration, they only get jobs as gig workers, as delivery partners, that too without any social security when it comes to injuries or health insurance. She's just calling out that this discrimination and lack of access to documents, lack of inclusion is a tradition seen by the government to these communities since the 1950s. And I guess she's asking for recognition of these communities since we've always heard about Dalit and tribal communities from India, though nomadic and denotified tribes are also a major group consisting of a significant population in India, which deserve separate recognition, constitutional recognition, and a lot of work from civil society to help them with their social security. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian, for very aptly explaining what Rohini was sharing with us. I will quickly request Pragati to run the documentary from Cambodia that will be sharing with us the community voices on social protection from Cambodia. Pragati, is it possible for you to quickly do that?
Yeah. Just a second.
Till she does that, should we invite the last speaker?
Maybe.
Okay.
Oh, I think it is.
Yeah, here you go.
Is it showing now?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Pragati, no voice actually. Can you just turn on the voice?
No? Okay now?
We are not hearing any voice.
We can follow in the subtitles.
Okay, that's fine. Pragati, this seems to be a little challenging because, and also in the interest of the time, if I request you to just share the link of the video
Yes, yeah.
in the chat so as people can follow later on, because there is no voice and it's difficult to follow through the whatever is written in the
Subtitles.
code, subtitles. So may I request as a final community voice from Dalit Rights Organization in South Asia. We have with us today Miss Bal Maya Bishwakarma. If I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Bal Maya Bishwakarma. Go ahead, please. Your intervention for 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. Are you hearing to me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. Hello, namaste and good afternoon, everyone. I am Balmaya Bishwakarma, advocate, activist, and General Secretary of Equity Society, Nepal. Today, I am going to discuss about the social protection scheme for Dalit in South Asia. Dalit are the most marginalized community in South Asia, particularly in Nepal, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. These communities face caste-based discrimination in society, and they are marginalized socially, politically, and economically. Social protection is a universal program that aims to prevent poverty, vulnerability, and social exclusion throughout a person's life. It provides support during time of need such as unemployment, sickness, disability, and old age through measures like cash benefit and in-kind services. Services like health insurance, maternity allowances, and senior citizen allowances are some example. In today's talk, I would like to highlight the situations of social protections from the perspective of Dalit in Nepal, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. Nepal, out of the total populations of Nepal, 13.8% are Dalits. The government of Nepal has recognized social protection as the fundamental right under the constitutions of Nepal 2015. There are more than 70 social protection programs implemented across the country. Individuals became eligible for the social security cash allowances at the age of the 68 years. However, Dalit are eligible to receive the monthly social security cash allowances from the age of 60 years. Dalit children under the age of 5 throughout the country are entitled to receive monthly cash allowances. In India, Dalit population constituted approximately 16.6% in India's total population. The constitutions of India recognize the rights of scheduled caste, Dalit. Legal safeguard protect Dalit from the discriminations and exploitations, while the Code of Social Security 2020 extend welfare provisions. Several targeted schemes support Dalit empowerment and social security. These initiatives aims to enhance income generation, health insurance, enrollment, entrepreneurship, and social protection for Dalit communities. In Bangladesh, Dalit community occupies more than 4% of the total population. The government of the Bangladesh implement approximately 132 social safety net programs at both regional and national level. The government introduced social protection policy for Dalit and Harijan communities in 2013, but from the 2018 to 19, the term Dalit and Harijan were replaced by the backward communities. One of the programs is known as Livelihood Empowerment Program for underprivileged community, which include old age allowances for Dalit aged over 50 years, education allowances for Dalit students from primary to higher study level, and skill training and cash support to Dalit unemployed to start business. Pakistan. Hindus are the most significant religious minority group, 1.61% in Pakistan. The IHAS program launched in Pakistan in 2019 provides a broad-based social safety net for poverty reductions and vulnerable groups. Although it is not specifically targeted for Dalits, the Sehat SALT program is a federal health insurance scheme intended to increase access to health care for poor and vulnerable households. The conclusion is that Dalit and backwarded communities remains largely unprotected, trapped in cycle of poverty and vulnerability. These disparities are worsened by fiscal asserted debt burden and the impact of the climate changes. Some countries include the Nepal, India, have developed targeted initiatives specifically for Dalit community. However, additional legal instruments are required to develop and strengthen protections against discriminations and to promote the social and economic inclusion of Dalit across all sectors of society, including comprehensive social protection schemes. Furthermore, raising awareness within Dalit communities and providing additional support are essential to ensure their effective access to existing social protection scheme. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Indeed, Ms. Balmaya. I'm not going to conclude the wonderful session this morning. We had a very good discussion from Professor Mathew, and then from Amjad Shawa, and then later on 4 different community voices. I think the organizers will be concluding it later on, but I have taken almost 20 minutes of your time, Tessa, for which I actually really apologize, and I would request from my side to the participants to at least stay 20 minutes later than the time we have already stipulated for the call. I hope that they will oblige me and you. I would request my colleague Tessa Los Ora Sevilla from PRRM to take over from here to onward. Over to you, Tessa.
Very much, Zia.
Yeah.
I hope that you can hear me clearly.
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
very well, very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we're now moving on to session 2, which is the Voices of the CSO Leaders. So from this session, we'll be hearing the sharing of our CSO leaders on issues of funding for social protection, the role of international financial institutions on debt and climate change, the impact of fund cuts on our communities. We'll also talk about institutional reforms, democracy, and human rights. So without further ado, I'd like to call on our first CSO leader. I'd like to call on the Asia Regional Director of Action Aid to talk about Asian countries and how they can overcome the debt crisis. So let's all welcome Mr. Jagat Patnaik.
Hi, Tessa. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. Okay. No, thank you for this opportunity, and it's such a pleasure to be here. Can you see the screen or no, not yet? I had a presentation, but I don't know whether you
We can see the
can you see
screen.
this now?
Yes, we can
Yes.
see it.
Okay, okay. So it's such a privilege to be here, and it's such a treat to listen to the previous presenters, including the keynote speaker and guest speaker. And again, before starting, I must say that we stand in solidarity with our Palestinian friends, colleagues, and communities, and always the support is from our side to our Palestinian friends. The topic which I wanted to speak is on can Asian countries overcome the debt crisis? So it's a challenging topic, but I must say that it's in fact a question of justice. It's about challenging the use of debt as a tool of neo-colonialism, a new and cleverly managed form of quote unquote reconquest by a few, weaponizing debt and turning it into an instrument of control through debt diplomacy. If friends have come across reading the speech of Mr. Thomas Sankara, the former president of Burkina Faso in 1980s, who had very rightly reminded us that we think that, let me quote him, we think that debt has to be seen from the standpoint of its origins. Debt's origins come from colonialism's origins. Those who lend us money are those who had colonized us before. They are those who used to manage the states and economies. So if we now review, reflect, and when Professor Babu Mathew was also mentioning, reiterating, I think 81 years on, the IMF, World Bank still impose false solutions that protect private lenders and trap countries in crisis. So real justice here means ending illegitimate debts and building democratic, just governance. So if we look at the context and background, and I would like to also cover a few data. ActionAid had done a research in this year, and it has come up with some key areas to share as part of that report, which is called Who Owes Who. So we are witnessing a convergence of crisis, which is ever-growing breadth and scale. It's climate, conflict, inequality, tightening their grip on billions globally. So the global south bears the heaviest burden with public debt reaching unsustainable levels. According to the IMF itself, in its fiscal monitor 2024, the global public debt exceeded 93% of world GDP. And in many Asian economies, debt servicing is cannibalizing the public investment. ActionAid's study revealed a stark symmetry. While low and lower middle income countries struggle under external debt, they are simultaneously owed trillions in reparative debts. These include climate damages, colonial exploitation, slavery, illicit financial flows, and broken aid promises. The debts that remain unacknowledged and unpaid. The global financial architecture enforces the debts of the poor with brutal efficiency through austerity, conditionalities, and structural adjustment. So, meanwhile, the moral historical debts of wealthy nations are ignored, revealing a deep imbalance in global power and accountability. So some of the data-based information which the report had captured, that 54 countries are in serious debt crisis, and 86% of low and lower middle income countries are at risk. In 24 alone, these countries paid say $138 billion US dollar to service external debts, diverting funds from health, education, climate resilience, etc. The injustice is stark. 75% of all lower income countries spend more on foreign debts than on health, and 51% spend more on debt servicing than on education. So these figures expose a global economic system that prioritizes creditor profits over human dignity. So if we look at Asia, to be specific, some of the information which we captured, that Asia debt crisis is not uniform, rather a mosaic of vulnerabilities, each shaped by history, inequality, and the global financial order. In South Asia, we have seen public debt distress deepen from Sri Lanka's default in 2022 to Maldives, Pakistan being flagged by the IMF as at high risk of debt distress. Even Bangladesh have had to turn to the IMF for balance of payment support. Afghanistan is also in high risk category. These are not isolated events. They expose the structural fragility of different economies trapped in cycles of borrowing to survive. In Southeast and Central Asia, the story is similar, but with a different face. Private and external debts are rising, much of it denominated in foreign currencies, leaving countries like Laos and Tajikistan in distress. So, and behind all of this lies a pattern, a legacy of IMF and World Bank, structural reforms that re-engineered the national economies over decades. These reforms pushed us to abandon domestic manufacturing and agriculture to depend on low-end exports and high-cost imports, even for food. So what followed were chronic balance of payment crisis, austerity, inequality, and poverty. And the cycle continues. So if we refer to the Asian Development Bank's 2024 outlook, which says that debt to GDP ratio in Asia average around 65 to 70%. But the real crisis is not the ratio, it's the quality and composition of debt. So in a way, one also needs to ask, what also Professor Mathew mentioned about it, that while we chase GDP growth, we must also ask, where is ecological and social justice in this growth and social inclusion in this growth? So when we talk about debt in Asia, we must see it not as a technical issue, but as a political, moral, and ecological crisis. Debt and climate, there is a vicious cycle which we all are aware of. External debts force countries to raise foreign currency, especially dollars, quickly, so they invest in extractive industries, exploit fossil fuels and other natural resources and support industrial agriculture for export. So this accelerates the climate crisis. Shockingly, private banks who profit from these loans have invested over 3.2 trillion US dollars in fossil fuels in the global south since the Paris Agreement. So it's the time to break this cycle and reimagine a financial system that prioritizes climate justice and human rights. So to move away from this vicious cycle of climate crisis and debt. And debt and austerity is in a way, countries in debt distress often turn to the IMF, which prioritizes loan repayment over national development, leading to deep cuts in public spending. The most common target is the public wage bill affecting frontline teachers and health workers, despite already critical shortages. In 38 lower income countries, debt repayments exceed health budgets twofold, undermining education, healthcare, and climate action. For instance, one cannot improve education by cutting the very people who deliver it. Without investing in teachers, there is no investment in education. And if we look at the gendered impact, when public services are cut, women and girls lose access first, whether it's education, healthcare, or social protection. Systems fail, women absorb the fallout through unpaid care work, caring for the children or the sick, collecting water or fuel, and holding families together while the state retreats. This is how, let me move a bit quickly because of the time constraint. So if we compare the numbers, rich countries owe 107 trillion in climate debt to low and lower middle income countries, over 70 times greater than the external debt those countries collectively owe. If repaid by 2050, this would mean 4 trillion annually flowing towards climate justice, resilience, and recovery. While poorer nations pay 138 billion each year in debt servicing, they're owed nearly 30 times more in climate reparations. The numbers speak for themselves, so it's time to shift the global narrative from debt repayment to debt justice. Let me skip this as well, because we know that colonial plunder which has happened earlier during colonial era and which is ongoing, with multinational companies and rich elites extracting 1.13 trillion profit per year to hide in tax havens. These debts owed by these countries are going unpaid and unenforced. If we look at, can Asian countries overcome the debt crisis? I think I would argue that it's difficult for the Asian countries to overcome the debt crisis, whilst the existing global architecture that has caused and feeds off and benefits from the endless cycle of debt crisis continues in place. This means challenging the legitimacy and competency of the IMF to argue that it is a colonial hangover, no longer fit for purpose, serving to entrench an unjust global order, and that we urgently need to see a new global finance architecture through agreeing a UN Framework Convention on Debt and accelerating the progress on the UN Framework Convention on Tax. I think as civil societies and activists, we should call on all countries to support a vote on the UN Framework Convention on Debt when it is brought to the floor at UNGA, probably, I think, in October 2026, next September, October 2026. And it's interesting to note that next year in October, IMF annual meeting will take place in Asia, Bangkok. I think this gives us an opportunity and can be an interesting moment to galvanize a strong people's campaign against IMF. And one of our major concerns is always the impact of debt crisis on public services. How can also we best feed into the World Summit for Social Development in Qatar, COP30 in Brazil, and G20 in South Africa, and all in next month in November. So some of those will really help in terms of mobilizing the communities, mobilizing the organizations to play a role. There are a few solutions which we talk about it as part of, some of those we had taken it to the Sevilla Financing for Development event in Spain, and also mobilization. So these are some of the possible solution one can think of. as a UN framework and convention on debt. So a fair and transparent process, debt resolution mechanism, then responsible sovereign lending and borrowing, new approach to debt sustainability, ensuring that the assessment is aligned with human rights, climate and sustainable development needs, an automatic debt service cancellation mechanism that protects Global South, a binding global debt registry to promote transparency and more representational in the decision-making processes. So the few opportunities I already mentioned, but at the same time also, we need to emphasize on system change, which as civil society and activists, one can always work with movements, and movements can be united to demand not just debt cancellation, but also an overhauling of the international financial architecture. So there are a few recommendations which I also wanted to highlight here. Prioritize urgent investments in public services and just transition. UN system I already mentioned. And then civil society movements and organizations working on economic justice, climate justice, public services, human rights, women's rights, and on various fronts as well should unite to call for both debt cancellation and fundamental structural reform to the colonial architecture that perpetuates debt crisis. So in the face of rising nationalism and self-interest, the world needs a new, fairer multilateralism and new collaborative leadership, to be on the right side of the history. So raise our voice against commercialization, privatization that harm rights, recognizing that these have driven growing inequalities and injustices. Alliance of people marginalized irrespective of social constituencies, civil societies, networks, social and trade union movements, that will really continue pushing hard the resolution, the solution and hope to the debt crisis. So I must say that Antonio Guterres, who himself had acknowledged as well that no example of the international financial architecture's failure is more glaring than its handling of debt. The last years have been nothing short of a debt disaster. So this is not just a critic, it's a call to action. There are many forums in the upcoming days, months, and we must push for those reformations as one of our primary agenda. So let us reimagine a global system that serves people, not creditors. And we need to also understand who really owes who. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patnaik. We'll now move on to the second presenter, who will be talking about the state of social protection in South Asia. So I'd like to call on the Advocacy and Campaigns Officer of the South Asia Alliance for Poverty Eradication, Ms. Reshma Shakya.
There's one request to speakers to make it short. Now we're really running short of time.
Yes. So we'd like to request our speakers to keep to our time, which is 8 minutes per presentation. And if you see me doing this, that means you have 1 minute left. All right. So without further ado, may I now call on Ms. Reshma Shakya? Is she here with us?
She was with us. She should be.
Okay.
Maybe you can go to the next speaker until
Okay.
she comes
Yeah.
back.
She's there. She's there. Reshma's there.
Oh, Reshma is here.
Reshma, we
Reshma?
cannot see you. Please make yourself visible. I cannot see you. But anyway, just in interest of time, we can go to Sunil.
Yes, I'd like to call on the next speaker to talk about the impact of aid cuts on communities and CSOs in Asia. So I'd like to call on Mr. Abid Gulzar, the Regional Director of American Friends Service Committee, or AFSC.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate this time. And I also express my gratitude and solidarity with the people of Palestine. And I was really overwhelmed by the presentation. Thank you so much for that. Friends and colleagues, good afternoon. Can someone share my screen? I shared the presentation actually earlier. If you can share that presentation, that would be great, so that I or I'm not sure if I can share my screen as well. So this afternoon we are talking about actually the how we can figure out the impact of global aid cuts. We are not going to discuss theories and what happens to in theoretical world, but what is actually happening in practical world. We are actually trying to bear witness to a profound rupture in the global architecture of care and justice. That's what we have seen due to this aid cuts. As part of the American Friends Service Committee, we hold the conviction that there is God in everyone, and this inherited worth of individuals or human being command us to respond when human dignity is threatened. Let me see if you cannot share your screen. Do you want me to share my screen? Can you give my...
You can do it. You are a co-host. Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if I can share my screen. Let me go for this. Okay. Let me see this one. Okay. Okay, so can you see my screen now or not yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Can you share it?
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll take you through this quickly. I will try to finish before 8 minutes, actually. I just wanted to make sure that, okay, so that's the most important overview. Just quickly, we conducted a research which was based on the desk review, as well as a survey which was collected from a number of organizations and coalitions, and especially those who are regional level coalitions. They provided a feedback on the impact of the aid cuts on civil society in a number of regions. So we collected from Latin America, Caribbean, even Asia region contributed to this research. What are the 4 areas which covered by this research was operational impact on global humanitarian architecture and organizing capacity, impact on CSO response and mitigation capacity, support required by CSOs and NGO leaders. That was the basic the coverage. Interestingly, that shows actually a huge impact on civil society. So we have noted down the research shows that there are over 60 billion the overall financial impact. A number of because of the loss of technical and support, it has impacted a number of organizations, significant number of organizations, especially in Asia. And it also actually shows that the ideological shift prioritizing security states over the welfare state. So that's the what exactly, if you look at what does it mean actually? It means that the funding freeze is not just an isolated event. That's one thing to be noted. The funding emerged as a major shock to global civil society with a sudden withdrawal of decade-long financial and technical support. The shockwave of a US funding freeze is not a distant policy actually problem. It is a humanitarian catastrophe in progress with an estimated impact, if you can see, we have already noted 60 billion abrupt ODA reduction. It's also creating a problem. Let's measure actually what does it mean in terms of the impact. We have seen a number of programs or the most vulnerable communities in Afghanistan, in Pakistan for programs related to sexual reproductive health, humanitarian aid in Myanmar, health programs and other programs in Asia region. And that shows actually that it's not just one sector, multiple sector, and many countries in Asia. This is not a budget kind of a review problem, but it's a betrayal of our shared humanity. We are saying people who want and should be supported to stay in their home being forced to leave as the capacity to prepare for and respond to the disaster disappears. The overall cumulative impact is, and the communities are left to absorb the fallout with less capacity to respond and fewer resources are prepared for. If you look at what exactly we're talking about, you can see that multilateralism is dying now. Isolationism and what you call it's kind of a paranoia in a global leadership currently, which you can see, which is impacting and going to have an impact on overall global instability as well. Civil rights as NGOs are forced now to, they are doing less and less advocacy. We have seen this authoritarianism, which is growing, and NGOs who were actively engaged in advocacy work are doing less and less in advocacy now. They are more trying to still focus on service delivery. Their voices are muted because of the fear. Democracy is betrayed by authoritarianism and militarization. Governments are using, looks like, digital surveillance to monitor and repress dissent, leading to an absolutely new era of authoritarianism. It's a different era, which is leading to a bit more of chaos in Asia region. The trust is shattering, and that's where we need to actually look into what exactly we can do and we can actually ask for. This simultaneous decline in ODA from the other donors, including EU and Nordic states who are increasingly shifting funding towards national defense and other migration, control and other things, which also is going to have an impact in coming days. Strategic interest is actually shifting now. I would like to maybe also highlight that the public awareness and citizen activism at the grassroots is one of the worst affected. Local organizations are more suffering than a little bit, the major or larger organizations. Power shift, that's actually is the future, shifting the power and funding models. We need to have a new type of funding models. Colleagues, we definitely need to put together civil society, and we need to face the twofold challenges. Number one, we must confront the immediate humanitarian fallout, but we also must demand and reordering of the system itself. Reorganization is needed. This moment is an opportunity to reimagine our shared future, guided by faith in action. We disapprove the rise of security states. We call on states to respect, protect fundamental freedoms, address electoral authoritarianism, and ensure greater accountability. Calling on the states should protect civic space and human rights defender. What's happening in Asia is another, the human rights defenders are suffering, and we have seen human rights violation on the rise. We must resist fragmentation and lean on one another for solidarity, protection, and we have to support each other. We call upon the Western governments to rethink, to reimagine the future as well, and rather in decreasing, actually to increase the contribution in ODA to support the most marginalized community. Especially, they need to focus on humanitarian dignity of rights, and all those should be locally driven. What exactly is our call for action for us to move forward? It's necessary to uphold the civic and political right to enable realizing economic, social, and cultural right. we call upon the Asian nations to develop South-to-South solidarity and cooperation. We call upon Asian governments to come up with the development conclave, joining with civil society and develop a shared way forward, because we have to work together, and the governments and civil society need to work together as well. A world where all we can find justice and peace. And that's where we need to find a commitment across everywhere, civil society around. We need to figure out that there is a possibility of a new world. There is a possibility if we work together. We can create a new world through solidarity. Solidarity and cooperation could be the foundation of that. Leveraging our local knowledge and resources, we must ensure that the civic space is protected and human rights defenders are shielded. And that's where I think we have to be our top priority. Upholding human rights would be one of the most important challenge for us in Asia region in coming days, months, and years. And that's where the civil society is suppressed. The human rights defenders are actually facing serious challenges. Media is actually controlled. There is greater need now for civil society to be strengthened than ever before. I would like to maybe say that we need to be instrument of peace, denouncing injustice and building a future where dignity of every person is honored. We must not look merely to restore what was, but to build and reimagine the international aid and development system from the ground up, one that is flexible, compassionate, and rooted in the priority of Global South. Let us commit ourselves to work with courage and solidarity. Let's be the instrument of peace and development. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abid Gulzar. So we would like to call on again Ms. Reshma Shakya. Is she ready?
Yeah,
Ms. Reshma?
thank you.
Yes.
Sorry that there is some connectivity
You're
and
back,
due to
yes?
bad weather. Yeah, I'm back
All
now.
right. So we'd like to open the floor for your presentation on the state of social protection in South Asia. So you may start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no any kinds of the slides, so I'll just briefing about the situations and the state of the social protection in South Asia. Hello, everyone. I'm Resma from SAPE, South Asia Alliance for Poverty Eradications, which is a regional network of the civil society organizations, mass movements in South Asia and beyond. So while we talk about our discussion on the social protections, so we must examine how our systems are performing, what structural pressures they face, and why these challenges are so deeply connected to democracy, human rights, and inclusive development. So while talking about our region, the scale of the challenge is striking. Across South Asia, only about 35.4% of the population are covered by at least one social protection benefit. Informal employment constitutes about 86.6% of the workforce. Because the vast majority of work is informal, many workers fall outside contributory or formal employment-based safety nets and remain extremely vulnerable. While we talk about Nepal, in case of Nepal, Nepal coverage of social protection climbed from around 17% in 2021 to about 21% in 2023. Yet even here, only 7.4% of women have access to maternity protection, and only about 7% of the workforce contributes to a pension scheme. So while we talk about the Bangladesh, meanwhile, the government spending on social protection is among the lowest in the region. while South Asia's average is about 2.9% of GDP. Bangladesh's expenditure is estimated at 2% or less. So these figures point to a stark reality: large informal sectors, very low public spending on social protection, inadequate coverage for women and other excluded groups, and severely limited fiscal space. So in case of Pakistan, it faces a more challenging scenario. While there has been a 45% increase in the social protection budget allocation from the year 2021 to 2022, reaching US $1625 million. The overall coverage remains limited. The schemes like the ESAS Emergency Cash Program, which was launched during the COVID-19 pandemic, was one of the largest social protection response globally, reaching millions of vulnerable individuals. However, the informal sector, which constitutes a significant portion of the workforce, remains largely outside the formal social protection systems. Regarding Sri Lanka, when we talk about Sri Lanka, it has a well-established social protection systems, including universal healthcare and education. However, only 41.3% of the population is covered by at least one social protection benefit, leaving large segments of informal workers without adequate support. The schemes like the Aswa Suma scheme, intended to provide targeted support, has faced challenges in effectively identifying and reaching the most vulnerable populations. Additionally, the country's economic crisis has strained public resources, limited the expansions and sustainability of social protection programs. So after this data, we can know that how the funding gap is large, because from this data also we can see there is a huge gap in the fundings. That may be one of the reason is the combined pressure of the debt, weak revenue mobilization, the role of the international financial institutions, and the additional burden of the climate change. And the government of South Asia face heavy debt burdens. Globally, many low and middle income countries are spending increasingly large shares of revenue on debt service. In some cases, more than what is spent on education, health, or social protection combined. So IFIs such as the IMF and the World Bank often attach conditionalities that emphasize austerity and fiscal consolidations, which restrict government's ability to expand social protection. On top of this, social protection system in South Asia need to become shock responsive, capable of responding to disaster, climate shocks, migration, sudden job losses. Aid funding models really prioritize that dimensions. So while talking about these situations, that's our civil society organization, trade unions, social movements are already working on tackling these challenges. For example, labor rights organization in South Asia, including the SHAPE, supported the extension of the social security scheme to include informal workers, self-employed and migrant workers, which is a reform largely driven by the civil society and trade union advocacy. In case of the Nepal, the unions, the larger unions, the Gender Federation of Nepal Trade Unions, called GFON, launched a campaign called Mission 2 Million. Mission 2 Million, aiming to enroll 2 million workers, both formal and informal, into the National Social Security Fund within 4 years. Similarly, in Sri Lanka, some of the initiatives from the ILO in partnership with Japan launched in July 2025 a project to strengthen unemployment, maternity, and pension schemes while extending coverage to informal and care economy workers via gender transformative approach. So this shows that some changes is possible and that the roles of CSOs and trade unions are vital for the building worker awareness, pushing policy dialogue, influencing government frameworks, forging multi-stakeholder collaboration, and advocating for inclusive and shock responsive systems. But our work must go beyond national borders, so raising our voices in regional and global forums to ensure structural changes that enable strong social protection systems. So we have many regional global forums are happening in near future. For example, the UN Tax Convention's third session in Nairobi will happen in November 2025, which provides a platform for CSOs to engage on tax justice, revenue mobilization, and equitable finance. Globally, the Fight Inequity Alliance, We the 99 Global Assembly, will be happening in the November from 17 to 2022, followed by the People's Summit, which will mobilize exclude voices and demand structural economic change. Similarly, we are going to share our declarations and demands in the Second World Summit for Social Development in Doha from 4 to 6 November, which invites the CSOs to participate in side events, the Solution Studio, and the civil society forums. Similarly, we have a platform like Asia Pacific Social Forum, which will be held in Bangkok from 1st to 5th November, which also offer an open space for movements, youths, and CSO across Asia Pacific to engage in self-organized workshop, policy dialogue, solidarity building. So these pathways enable civil society to connect our struggles for social protection with debt justice, progressive taxation, climate adaptation, and human rights, ensuring that the voices of informal workers, women, migrant persons with disabilities, and other excluded groups shape high-level policy agendas. So we also have the opportunity to shift toward universal, resilient, right-based social protection, democratic governance, and inclusive institution. If we act together along with the government, civil society, workers, youth, then we can build the systems and that protect our dignity and also empower exclusive developments. Thank you. This was from my end.
Thank you very much, Reshma. That was a very thorough presentation of the state of social protection in South Asia. Now, we move on to our last speaker for this for session 2. We'd like to call on the Just Transition campaign manager of Recourse, who will be talking about influencing the IFIs for a just transition. So we'd like to call on Mr. Sunil Acharya of Recourse.
Thank you, Tessa. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thank the organizers for this opportunity. I also share my solidarity with the people of Palestine to begin with. I'm Sunil Acharya from Recourse, an international organization that focuses on making development finance work for people and the planet. This afternoon, I'll speak briefly as we've been over time. So basically, I will be speaking on what the international financial institutions are doing in the name of just transition, basically focusing on just energy transition, and what is essential to achieving a just transition, one that is truly people-powered, fair, and aligned with climate justice. Let me start with laying out why just transition matters. As we listened from previous speakers, Asia today faces manifold intersecting crises, the climate crisis, a deepening debt crisis, and a widening inequality. Multilateral development institutions like the World Bank Group and the Asian Development Bank here in Asia are increasingly shaping how our countries move away from fossil fuel or get locked into it. Too often, they are recycling the same old patterns that caused the crisis in the first place. For example, promoting fossil gas as a transition fuel, financing large-scale private projects, and offering loans instead of grants. Without justice at the center, the transition risks entrenching debt, exclusion, and inequality. A just transition means social, economic, and ecological justice together. It's not only about clean energy, but also about who owns it, who benefits, and who bears the cost. Unfortunately, the IFI's approach to the so-called just transition is deeply flawed. Let me highlight a few key issues that Recourse and our partners have observed. First, what you see is like the MDBs continue funding fossil fuels. They are locked into fossil addiction and are promoting false solutions. These false solutions in the name of renewable energy include large-scale hydropower, nuclear. They are opening up to nuclear energy now. They are promoting projects like carbon capture and storage, waste to energy, and many others, which basically harm communities and ecosystems. They are creating debt dependence. Most climate and energy finance that the MDBs or the IFIs channelize comes as loan, not grants, worsening the debt burden of developing countries. They deploy the private sector first approach, continuing to push market liberalization and privatization that weakens public institutions and drive inequality. They also follow this, the weak participation rules, wherein communities, women, and workers who are impacted by the climate crisis are really rarely consulted or not left out of decision making. In short, the IFIs are trying to solve the climate crisis using the same old tools that created this crisis, which is debt, privatization, and top-down planning. Let me now briefly talk about what a truly just transition could look like. At Recourse, we believe a real just transition must be first equitable, that protects workers, informal sectors, and vulnerable groups. It should be publicly led, governments and communities, not the corporations who should drive the transition. It should be democratic, people leading and having a real say in shaping how energy and economic policies are devised, and it should be transformative. That means tackling inequality and building resilience. Through our banking on renewables campaign, we've developed the criteria wherein the IFIs can use these criteria to invest in just transition. There are three main criteria, which is they must finance a transition toward a 100% renewable future. They should build democratic and community-controlled energy systems and put people and nature at the heart of every investment. So these are not abstract principles. They are concrete benchmarks that we've devised. And if you all would like to, receive the briefing, I can share it afterwards. So let me now get into towards the end by talking about what IFIs should be doing. They should first fund only sustainable renewables, no more gas, coal, or not even false solutions. They must prioritize real technology transfer and support appropriate renewables. Secondly, they should shift from the profit motive to the justice motive. Their financing should come as grants or highly concessional loans, not market-based debt. Third, they should strengthen safeguards and accountability, ensuring free, prior, and informed consent, and embedding just transition principles across all sectors. Fourth, they should keep civic space alive. We've seen sinking civic space across our region. So they should uphold, including affected communities, labor groups, and women in decision-making. And finally, they should promote energy sovereignty and democracy, wherein investment goes to national aid to the national and local capacity and supporting public and democratic energy institutions. So at Recourse, we've laid this out as a 10-point action plan, but I'm not going into the details of that for now in the interest of time. But what I want to say at the end is that the IFIs should move from banking on profit to banking on justice. So achieving a just transition is not about switching fuels or our energy system. It's about transforming system of power, finance, and ownership. So community across Asia are already taking the lead in building cooperative renewables, resisting harmful projects, and demanding climate justice. So our message to the IFIs is clear. They should take the lead of the people in this transition. There's no transition without justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Acharya. And that concludes the presentation of the CSO leaders. We're now opening the floor for a 5-minute question and answer. So if there are questions, you may start asking them and won't have a few minutes to entertain them.
There's our lodging colleagues, so would it be possible that we move ahead to the next one?
Yeah.
For the declaration sharing, we already had some questions in earlier sessions. Already like what?
Yeah, I
20
think if there are questions, they can also post it in the chat group or in the chat box so that our speakers can answer these questions. So if there are no questions, we'd just like to wrap up the session. So our people are now more vulnerable more than ever, and we will never be silent nor silenced. Our voices must now be louder, firmer, and more united as we call out the injustices affecting our economies, our environment, and social protections. So let's call on people and planet over profit. So that ends session 2, and I now turn over the session to the session moderator for session 3. So Pradeep.
So thank you very much. We have already prepared a draft declaration with a small group of colleagues, Dr. Aita, Mahanur, Adrian, and Abid. So if Dr. Aita can share it. So Dr. Aita, please do not take too much time, 5-6 minutes or so. We'll request our colleagues to be with us for 7-8 minutes more. And then we'll share this declaration with you by email, and then you will take 2 days time to give you inputs and endorse also. So over to Dr. Aita Vishwakarma, who is leading this declaration drafting team.
I get sharing, please. Pragati, would be possible to share?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Dr.
Just a
Aita, you
second.
may share.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, video.
Make it a little bigger.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Pradeep ji. Good afternoon and namaste to all delegates and dignitaries. I'm Dr. Aita Vishwakarma from Asia Dalit Rights Forum and Equity Society Nepal. Thank you very much, ZCAP Asia, for giving me this opportunity to share the highlights of draft declaration of Asia Regional People's Assembly 2025. So the draft is the product of our joint effort. As already told that, so Abid Guljar, Mahanur Khan, Adrian De Cruz, and Pradeep Baisak, and I myself were the team members in this draft committee. And actually, the motto we have decided is that voice for social protection, civil liberties, and justice for all. So while drafting this declaration, we have designed our declaration in 4 thematic areas, which has been discussed in our session 2. So the first theme was debt crisis and economic justice, and the role of IMF. Yeah, the role of international financial institutions. And then second one is social protection and social justice, which has been widely discussed just before. Similarly, the third one is climate change and environmental justice. So the fourth one is democracy, civic space, and human right, the impact 8 card. So these are the 4 thematic area which we have decided, and then we have tried our best to inculcate the almost all the. Well, talking about debt crisis, already Professor Mathew and then other also have talked about that 851 million people are living in extreme poverty. Yeah, again, that's not only this one. Yes, so we can talk about that. So 118 developing countries are experiencing debt distress. So this all has worst impact in the people like women, farmer, fish hook, Dalits communities and discriminated by, and then worse hit peoples are really being affected in their, worsening poverty, greater economic distress, and eventually unrest and disability. So there can be this sort of, dissatisfaction can be realized even in that many of the countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, even this Pakistan, and then let's say Kenya, Indonesia, and so on. Yeah, we could see this thing. So what are the reasons that behind this? So there are three. I just want to note down that one of them is FIS, with the country, yeah, let's say crisis integrating policy and debt trap. So that has, and this has been affecting to the local level. So that's overall this all has been, this the committee has demanded some 8 points, so demand for the call of action like debt cancellation, eradication of poverty, and then reframing the convention, or let's say the reform the international financial structure architecture, and then tax system to be reformed, and so on. So, and at least we have to invest more in health, education, and social protection. So these are the things. The next theme was it's all about social protection. And definitely, whenever there is the country in the debt, that majority of the people are suffering from the, let's say, cut off from the social protection. So, however, in Asia, that's 53.6% has access to at least one. Yeah, please.
Dr. I would suggest that not to go into the context, but the key call for action, just in interest.
All right. Right. Thank you very much. So due to this one, we have referred to some of the sources, and then some 7-point call for action we have decided, and these are all regarding the how to secure the social protection in the region. And the next issue is climate change and environmental justice.
Up and on, we are lodging him. The connectivity in Nepal is little bad today because of the bad weather, I was informed. Okay.
Some let's say real actions for the regarding the climate change on these issues, and especially the last thing was democracy, civic space, and human right, and the impact of aid cuts. This also has severely affected the region, and we have decided some 15 points for call for actions. These are the just simply the draft, and we will share this link to all of you so that you can give your feedback and then comments and suggestions, whatever you have, so that we can finalize. Without your logic, ideas, and sharing comments and feedbacks, we cannot be completed. We will be sharing to all of this. And I would like to thanks to all the team members for the cooperation, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Yeah, please. Thank you, colleagues. So we will say you have already shared your email IDs. We'll share it with you. Take 2 days to give your inputs and endorse also simultaneously so that we can circulate it out the final version by this Friday. Pragati, can you take over?
So thank you so much, everyone. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, Jeffrey Akaba of APCASO was supposed to propose the vote of thanks, but he could not make it. So I'm reading his message on his behalf. Thank you all the panelists and speakers of today, from our keynote speaker, Professor Babu Mathew, to our guest speaker, Mr. Amjad Shawa from Palestine, our esteemed panelist and speaker, Mr. Ziaur Rahman, and Tessa Lodge Ora for moderating. and Pragati and Pradeep for coordinating this and making this possible. We really need to re-examine new conceptualization of addressing debt and making the economy more inclusive and responsive to our needs. Ideas such as the ordoliberalism is a potential approach to break the current neoliberalism paradigm. And we also need to break the reliance towards developmental aid, but at the same time, continue to demand accountability and shared responsibility, both among global North countries to their ODA commitment of at least 0.7% of their gross national income, as well as among the developing countries of 0.15% to 0.2% of their GNI. And once again, a special thanks to our community speakers and also CSO leaders. And let's carry forward the spirit of today's discussion, building stronger voices and collective action for a just world. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Pragati. Before we end, just a photo op. Please switch on your camera if you are comfortable. 1 or 2 photographs, and then we go. So we'll just one more announcement, colleagues. We will do a Global People's Assembly tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. GMT. What I'll do, because of the time confusion, you may be confused. It's for Indian time, it's 6:30 p.m. But I will send you the invitation by email to all of you. Ingo, you want to share a line about the Global People's Assembly? Ingo is the director of GCAP. So I'll just take some photographs and then yes, one more line from Ingo. Then we can leave. Yeah, Ingo, please, last words from you.
Thank you very much. It was really interesting to hear, to listen to all of you. Yeah, tomorrow we will focus on the preparations for the World Social Summit, and we have really interesting voices. So if you want to learn about the World Social Summit and also to contribute to the topics, then you're very much invited to join. So we will have 2 sessions. One is more on background, different voices, perspectives, and then we have the second session where we will have breakout groups on different topics. So please join and contribute. So the idea is really to bring the voices and perspectives from the different parts of the world. That means from communities, national assemblies, also regional assemblies like this one, together and to bring this into the World Social Summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingo. I shared the registration here. You can still cover, but I will send it today by email. Thank you very much, colleagues. Let's take our fight together forward for the protection of rights of the communities. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pradeep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.